Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of High Energy. I'm your host, Esteban Gast, and today's episode, we're diving into how public agencies can save money and energy with the help of SoCalREN. Joining us today is someone who knows this world inside and out. It's Rachel Pennington. Woo! She's the Assistant Director of Energy Services at the Energy Coalition, and Rachel plays a key role in running SoCalREN's public agency program, helping cities, school districts, government agencies, and other publicly funded facilities implement energy-efficient projects. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled. Wait, what's this cool? Oh, laundry room is behind you. I was like, what's the? I thought it was a street sign.
No, it kind of looks like it from here, though.
Yeah, Laundry Room Avenue is one of my favorite. Smells good. That's so good. Okay, so you're helping SoCalREN's public agency program. This. Forgive the silly question, but can you define public agency before we get into it? What's an example of a few public agencies?
Absolutely. So we define that term very broadly. It includes cities, counties, school districts, water and wastewater districts, other special districts like community services districts, library districts. We also inclusive in our definition of public agencies, we include higher education institutions like community colleges or universities, state-managed agencies, air quality management districts. So really, widely encompassing definition of public agency.
I love it. That's great. That's helpful to know. What can you tell us about the public agency program? Now we know public agencies. What exactly does the program do, and how does it? I know it's related to energy efficient improvements, things like that.
Yeah, so SoCalREN's public agency programs, it's a portfolio of programs. They aim to really empower public agencies to lead their communities by example to a more energy efficient and resilient future. So these programs do so by offering no-cost project management and technical assistance services to help all of the various public agency types I mentioned identify, fund, and implement energy efficiency projects. So really our success is measured by the energy savings and the greenhouse gas reductions that we help public agencies achieve.
Rachel, we're talking about SoCalREN Public Agency Program. If someone knows nothing, high level, headlines, what are things that the program does?
SoCalREN helps public agencies understand their energy use, understand what projects they can undertake to save energy and save money, help them find funding to implement those projects, and then make sure those projects happen, that the work gets done, and that those checks end up in their hands and that money ends up reinvested in their communities.
That's so good. Can you share some success stories or case studies or things that the SoCalREN has done in these?
There's so many. The public agency programs have been operating for over a decade. So in that time, there have been so many successes, but just some recent ones that come to mind. Just in the last couple of weeks, we worked with the city of Artesia to upgrade a water heater that was close to going out at one of their community centers. They knew they needed to replace their gas water heater, and they reached out to SoCalREN as sort of their energy expert partner. And we said, rather than replacing your gas water heater with a like-for-like unit, let's go in and electrify that equipment. Let's install a heat pump water heater. Not only will it run more efficiently, but you'll also remove that combustion source and save significant greenhouse gas emissions. And we actually were able to secure or have our install partner go out and replace that water heater at no cost. So SoCalREN offers incentives for improvements like this. And the program was actually able to cover the full cost of the equipment and the installation, $0 out of pocket for the city. They got a shiny new water heater, and best of all, the project start to finish took 3 business days. So from the first day they reached out to us, 3 business days later, their new water heater was installed. The community center ran a senior meal program using that water heater. And so it was really critical community infrastructure, and they were able to get that new water heater in quickly, and it's serving the community now.
I love that, first off, that it was like no cost, and it was 3 business days, and that they went to you being like, oh, we'd like a new water heater. And you were like, no, let's think bigger.
Yeah. And it wasn't just we'd like a new water heater. It was, hey, our existing water heater is about to go out and we need to replace it quickly, but we know that you all can help make things happen. What should we do? What's the highest efficiency option? And so I love that story because we delivered value, but it also shows that they thought of us, when they were thinking of energy, that they thought to bring us in. And I think that shows the value of the partnerships we've built with public agencies that we serve.
That's amazing. What an incredible success story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love Artesia. It's got such great food.
Artesia is wonderful. I hope they're listening.
Yeah. Shout out Artesia. Shout out Artesia. I hope they're listening, and I hope they're like heating up water and being like, wow, we're doing this in the most energy efficient way.
I hope they are. I hope they are. I'll just share really briefly another success story that comes to mind. We've been working now for a couple of years with a very small community services district in Mammoth Lakes called the Hilton Creek Community Services District. And we have worked with them to identify an energy efficiency project at one of their wastewater treatment plants. So when you think of public agency facilities, we really see it all. We see community centers like with Artesia. We see wastewater treatment plants. And we identified some inefficient blowers in their processing system and suggested high efficiency alternatives. And we were able to present a financial picture to them that showed that the project made financial sense. It would pay itself back in energy savings, that there were incentives available. We helped them apply for and secure those incentives. And we realized part of the way through the project that there was an additional hurdle that the district was facing. They had very few staff. They were at the point where it was time to procure services, find a contractor to actually install the new blowers. And the administrative lift of going through that procurement process was a really large barrier. And so we actually, SoCalREN convened a sort of task force of our internal procurement experts and walked the district through. There's actually a special part of California's government code that allows you to procure energy efficiency projects in a more streamlined way. And so we walked them through how to work through that process, how to procure a contractor. And we were able to help them find a contractor that could get to them, get the project installed. And they just completed construction this summer. So really excited that we were able to hear what the need was, right? In this case, really, they didn't have the staff capacity to get this project through procurement. And we were able to alleviate that barrier through sort of our extension of staff support. So really happy to be able to support this micro district and help them save on their energy bills.
That's incredible. Is it often like when you tailor services or someone comes to you, is it almost always like working with them one-on-one to figure out a solution, or are there like tailor-made solutions, or what does that look like if a public agency comes to you?
So our services are always tailored to whatever barriers exist for that particular public agency. And so I like to say SoCalREN meets agencies where they're at. So we can offer start to finish or a la carte services, depending on what an agency needs. So we always start with just getting to know the agency, understanding their energy goals, why they have connected with SoCalREN, if they have any existing climate action plans that they're hoping, working with us can help them advance. And then, let's say an agency comes to us and they don't already have a project in mind, but they know they want to reduce their energy use and they want to be more sustainable. Typically we start with what we call a comparative energy analysis, which is a report that provides a portfolio-wide snapshot of the agency's energy consumption and energy costs across different asset types. So how much money are they spending every year on buildings, on water systems, on street and park lighting, to really open up a conversation about what assets they might want to target for energy efficiency project exploration. So we then, once we have a conversation about what facilities or assets might have aging infrastructure, might be good candidates for us to explore further, we'll proceed with auditing a facility. So really going on site, doing an assessment of energy efficiency measures that can be taken at that site to reduce that facility's energy consumption. So following a site visit by one of SoCalREN's engineers, we'll prepare a report of findings to share with the agency. And it doesn't just tell them, hey, here's what we found, here's measures you can take, whether it be replacing lighting, installing controls, replacing HVAC, setting up new set points for their facility to reduce run times, whatever it may be. We don't just share what those measures are. We also share a financial analysis. So that looks at how much energy are you going to save if you implement this project? How does that translate to cost savings on your bill? And over the life of the equipment that we're recommending, how much energy will you save in total? How much money will you save in total? And the goal is that the projects we identify pay themselves back in energy savings so that it's a net positive financial picture. And, in addition, we factor in any available cash incentives or rebates. Oftentimes a big hurdle is funding. And so in addition to those incentives, we also stay up to date on available financing programs. SoCalREN has a 0% interest financing program for public agencies. So we really try to address that funding barrier. And then once we get buy-in, we're there in a supportive capacity through procurement, like I talked about with Hilton Creek, through construction, and we're there by their side until they get that project completed and those cash incentives in hand. So we're really there start to finish as their energy expert. And like I said, sort of as an extension of staff.
Yeah, that's so great. I know it might be tough specific numbers, but in terms of finances, can you talk about what are the long-term benefits? Like doing this might actually mean saving money. Doing this, obviously there's like a public health benefit and an environmental benefit.
Yeah. So, a big one, of course, is bill savings, right? So, like I said, we always want projects to pencil out where there's a net positive financial picture. But even beyond just those cost savings, there's every single project has associated greenhouse gas reductions. And so in 2023, just as an example, cumulatively, the public agency projects that were installed with SoCalREN support in 2023 produced about 3,000 metric tons CO2 equivalent greenhouse gas emissions reductions, which is equivalent to taking like 700 cars off the road for a year. So really significant GHG reduction benefits. Of course, air quality, local air quality is a huge topic as well. So reducing emissions, reducing combustion. So a big focus has been on where it makes sense to electrifying equipment. Again, replacing those gas water heaters with heat pump water heaters in support of reducing combustion and associated air pollutants. And so really thinking about all of those cumulative benefits and tying them back to any existing goals that a public agency might already have. Many of the agencies that we work with have climate action plans or energy action plans, and energy efficiency is a great way to take steps towards the commitments that are outlined in those existing plans.
You had talked about audits and like electrification and HVACs and things like anything and any other services that are offered that we haven't talked about, just if someone is like, oh, you also do blank?
Yeah, of course. So really, we like to say that if you think of energy, think of us, because we really stay up to date on the plethora of available resources for public agencies when they think about energy. So I talked about incentives, I talked about financing, but we also stay up to date and maintain expertise on grant funding, state level grant funding, federal funding, and we help agencies apply for those grant funds as well. So, for example, there's a really large grant program called the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. Get your application in. If you don't know where to start, reach out to SoCalREN because there's formula grant funding, meaning non-competitive grant funding available for public agencies, and we don't want them to miss out. So we really make sure that our public agencies stay up to date on those things, that they're aware of them. We send out e-blasts, we send out one-on-one emails, and we make sure that they know about the resources available to them. And on that theme of communication, our support doesn't start and end with project services. There are many benefits that participants can glean just from enrolling. So when agencies enroll, they get access to what we call a network toolkit, where you get a login, you can go into your network toolkit and you have access to fact sheets, access to webinars that talk about, just as a few examples, talk about funding opportunities, talk about tax deductions for energy efficiency, talk about procurement, ways to procure projects in a more streamlined fashion, webinars on maintaining your new heat pump water heater, and other high opportunity measures and easy to implement measures. And so not only do we have our project services, but we also are always working on capacity building up expertise within the agencies that we work with, developing on-demand and leave-behind resources so that they can build their own expertise and continue taking on energy action in the work that they do. So the benefits abound.
Benefits abound.
The benefits abound.
You said public agencies can enroll. Can you walk us through that?
Yes.
Someone is like, okay, SoCalREN, I'm in. Rachel, benefits abound. Pennington, sign me up.
Yes, absolutely.
And then what are you said like enroll. You also said reach out. What are the ways to engage with you and with SoCalREN?
Absolutely. So our enrollment process is very simple. It's a 2-step process. We just have an initial meeting. We call it a kickoff meeting where we introduce program services. We talk a little bit about who's already in the network. And then we really just have a conversation about that agency's energy priorities. And then the second step to enrolling is filling out a completely non-binding enrollment form. So again, there's no cost to enroll. All of SoCalREN's services are no cost. And we just ask that an agency sign a simple form, identify a single point of contact for us to work with. And that really unlocks their access to program services. So again, it's really simple. We try to reduce the barrier to entry. Yeah, if agencies want to reach out to SoCalREN, they can do so by just emailing us at info@socalren.org. And someone will follow up and set up a conversation with them to learn more about their goals.
That's great. Okay, we've got 2 listener questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Thanks, by the way, for walking us through this. Those are such awesome and specific examples. It just has been so great to learn. I know that there's so many resources. It almost feels like you're doing the hard part. You're like out there looking for grants. And it's like, I can go to someone. Public agency can like go to someone and be like, you've done the homework. Can you help me? Which is so wonderful. Okay, here's the first listener question. Are you ready? The first one is from Kennedy in Silver Lake. And they ask, how does SoCalREN support help public agencies overcome challenges like budget constraints or staff resources when implementing energy efficiency projects? Kennedy crushing it with the question. How does that, you're there, you're supporting, but agencies are like, oh my gosh, we don't have that much money. We don't have that many people. How do you work through and think through that?
Yeah. So, I mean, those are the 2 top barriers that we hear about, funding and then staff capacity. And so I've used the phrase extension of staff a couple of times, but I think that's really important because every agency that enrolls receives a dedicated project manager that is their single point of contact from SoCalREN, who is really the manager of their energy projects. And so you have now this additional person that is actively seeking out opportunities for you and helping initiate and drive those projects forward. So you can almost think of it like you have your own energy coordinator or energy manager available on call to assist you. And so, you know, we use the word support, but you can also just think of it as like you have someone managing your energy projects for you. And they're the ones that can tell you, hey, here are the measures that have really high savings right now. Here's what's easiest to implement and lowest cost. Here are funding and financing options that will work and address your specific funding constraints. And so it really takes the load off of the public agencies that we work with, having that dedicated point of contact. And then, of course, just speaking more to funding. We ask very early on in our conversations with agencies about, what their funding cycles look like, if they plan on a fiscal year cycle, if they have a 5-year capital improvement plan, if they need any help pitching a project to their internal leadership, showing that a project has a net positive financial outcome. We can develop internal reports for their management. We can develop staff reports to take a project to council or to board to get buy-in. But again, when we think about the plethora of available funding opportunities at the local, state, and federal level, it's really exciting, but it's also really overwhelming. And for a public agency with limited staff, there's a lot of administrative time that can go into just trying to make sense of these things, understanding how they can stack with each other if they can, making sure that you comply with application requirements. And so our team, that's our job, is to maintain expertise in those areas and to apply for those resources on your behalf, to stay on top of deadlines, stay on top of key requirements, and make it really easy. So again, we're not only helping find what those resources are, but also helping public agencies secure them and making sure that that check gets mailed out to the agency at the end of the project. So we're there start to finish. And really the goal is that we make it as easy as possible, because we know that for many of our public agencies, energy efficiency is above and beyond their normal duties. So we know it's extra and we want to make it easy.
Thank you. Kennedy from Silver Lake is going to be like, thank you so much, Rachel. Okay, one more question. This is from Andrea from Koreatown. This is another incredible question. And Andrea is wondering, can SoCalREN help smaller agencies with fewer resources? Right? What kind of support is available for if you're defining yourself as a small public agency?
So just, back to the example I gave with Hilton Creek Community Services District. They have just a handful of staff. Their staff are wearing multiple hats within the organization. And we understand that there might need, a small agency may need more resources, more time devoted to their project to get it over the finish line. And we certainly help small agencies. We want to make sure that SoCalREN's resources are equitably distributed, not just in terms of geography, but also in terms of, the types of public agencies we support. We work with large public agencies. We work with micro, tiny public agencies with maybe 3 staff total. So absolutely, we can support small agencies. And we can also help small agencies identify, again, lower cost measures that are most likely to be well funded by incentive programs to address any budget issues. And then again, we often see agencies that enroll that maybe don't want to immediately start a project, but they want to get benefits from enrolling. And so there are a plethora of just network services available. We can help with benchmarking and energy use analysis. So I mentioned giving a snapshot of where your energy is being used and really starting with that education. And then, of course, we also convene webinars, working groups, and other venues for peer-to-peer knowledge building, best practices sharing, and then, of course, a plethora of leave behind resources, fact sheets, to really help agencies build up their internal expertise as well. But we love supporting small agencies, and they're a really important part of the portfolio and the network of agencies that we serve.
That's it. We did it. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, answering all the questions, sharing so many like specific, tangible resources. I feel like it's so clear to me what SoCalREN's work is, like, especially in the work that you're doing, how it's making like a genuinely big difference for cities and schools and all these other public agencies we talked about. And I love, yeah, it's like energy efficiency isn't just about cutting costs. It's also about creating a more sustainable future for all of us. And it's like, creating the world that we want to live in. So I love, thanks for walking us through how SoCalREN is there for public agencies in like a variety of ways, for a variety of needs. It's so helpful. We're going to put if you're listening and you're like, I want to learn more, all the information, everything Rachel talked about, like always, it'll be linked in the show notes. We'll make sure that you have all the resources to do that. And be sure to like follow us for more energy saving tips. Rachel, anything before we close that you're like, I must tell this to the wonderful listeners of this show?
I would just say, it's never too late to get started, and SoCalREN will meet you where you're at. So don't hesitate to reach out if you want to start saving energy and making progress toward your energy and climate goals. We're here to help.
So great. So everyone check out the show notes for links to the resources. Very important. And we love questions. The questions are so great. So keep sending questions to highenergypodcast@SoCalREN.org. Thanks for tuning in to High Energy Podcast. We'll see you next time.